Welcome, everyone. I know it's going to take just a minute for everyone to get into the Zoom room here. We've got a special one in store today because we've got a topic that you've heard me talk quite a bit from the stage if you've been coming to our events, and that is this idea of hybrid farming. And we've got an individual that is having great success using the hybrid farming formula. And here's the deal. At the end of the day, even though we've got the formula, everyone has their own ways and methods of putting it into place and taking action on it. So I think anytime we can hear from someone who's in the trenches with you and having success using a formula that we've been using for several years now, I think you've got a lot to learn. And today's going to be super cool because we've got Andy Nelson with us from Virginia Beach, Virginia. He's been a great one-on-one coaching client of ours, as well as it's been really cool to watch him grow his business and grow the brokerage there, the Iron Valley brokerage. So we're super excited to have everybody. If you're on for a first time ever, go ahead and throw down in the chat. If you're a first timer, we want to see our first timers. And also make sure you let us know city and state where you're chiming in from today, where you're joining us on today's session on hybrid farming. Welcome. Atlanta in the house. Love that. I know there's so many of you from all over North America joining us. So thank you. And we know that there's several of you, like any webinar, that sign up that will end up watching this at a later date or listening to this later on our podcast. So welcome everybody. Eden Prairie, first timer. Awesome. So Minnesota, I guess today we'll be calling it Minnesota. I'm sure you've heard that before. Midwest is getting pounded with snow, and as I look out here, out my window here, we just have ice, so it's not as pretty as everyone getting snow. Welcome again, everybody. I'm here with Andy Nelson from Virginia Beach, and we're going to jump into his topic today on how he is taking the hybrid farming method and implementing that into his business and seeing success. We hope you get some value from today's session. So Andy, take it away, my friend.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. I'm really excited to talk about this topic. I've spoke on the panel at the summit in January, a little bit about this topic, and there was so much interest from those in the Glover U inner circle that we decided to put together a class where we could basically shed some more light and answer some more questions. And speaking of light shed, it's a sunny 82 about here in Virginia Beach. It's a rarity. It's not normally that warm in February.
Take a look at that. Take a look at that table out there. Do you see that ice?
Oh man, no, thank you.
Yeah, that's my view. Yeah.
Well, it's getting to be that point of the year where things are transitioning. We start to see spring a little early, which is why this is actually so timely, because I actually have my first neighborhood event coming up in mid-March, which we've already started planning for. So a little bit of background on me. So I got out of the business. I've been licensed since 2011, got out of the business for a number of years, completed a master's degree in marketing and went to work in a marketing role for a Fortune 500 company. COVID happened and ended up back in real estate at the end of 2020. So full-time for the last 2 years. And I average about 75 units a year as a solo agent with an admin. Also co-own a brokerage of about 130 agents that we're kind of teaching to do a lot of this same stuff. So the beauty of hybrid farming is it does not require any type of degree in marketing. All of the steps that we've laid out are very, very simple and can be done by anyone. There's even a part where you can leverage other people into helping as well. Keep in mind, as we go through this is a long-term strategy. We are planting seeds, hoping to later, yield those crops. So I'll start off with a few points about why direct mail is important and how it works. And I love Jeff when he talks about Nordstrom at the event. Jeff, could you remind us of that point?
Yeah. So I was reading an article. I don't know if it was Forbes. It was some business weekly magazine or something like that. And maybe I heard it from an executive from Nordstrom on a podcast. Anyways, this was probably 4 years ago. Nordstrom, who we're all familiar with, they're still one of the more successful brick and mortar clothing companies, and of course they are online as well. They made the decision 3 years back, 4 years back, somewhere in that range, that they were taking all of their budget. They were downsizing their budget on social media and putting it into direct mail, because their belief was, we are inundated with notifications and things that come to our phone. We want to appear local. We want to be a part of the community. We want to be a place where people in the community can come and shop and get into a relationship with our sales associates and our fitters and our clothing designers. And, you know, basically they want to be a part of the community. So in an effort to do that, they moved a substantial, probably not all, and again, I'm paraphrasing what I read. They moved a substantial amount of their marketing budget from the phone to direct mail, which is so the opposite of what so many have done over the years. And they did that, and you know, from what I understand, are experiencing better success because of it. Now, of course, I don't know, you know, how much they're spending or how much they move. I just know that it was a big part of their marketing plan in this new market, moving budget from social media to direct mail at a time when everyone was going the other way.
Correct. No, that's perfect. And I've got some additional stats to touch on. But COVID, right? So everyone turned to this stay-at-home mentality where everything was online, buy online, pick up in store, everything became digital. And now the digital space is so cluttered. So I've got some statistics from a Harvard Business Review in late 2022 that ranks direct mail as the #3 most trusted form of advertising.
Wow.
So 76% of consumers actually trust direct mail more than email, more than most digital advertising.
It makes sense. It's got a little bit of it feels more credible, right? There's just something about consumers today are savvy. And they know anyone can go and create any ad. I mean, they could go create an ad if they want, but you know, getting a printer lined up and a designer and all of that, like that leads, I could see why that'd be more credible.
Yeah, and to further that point with a couple more statistics, 63% of people are more likely to take printed mail more seriously. Another 57% of people feel more valued when they actually receive direct mail. And then the last one, 55% of consumers feel that direct mail gives them a better impression of the organization.
Well, and I think the perception of a consumer would be you had to, it was, even if you had to pay for a Facebook ad, the perception is if you paid the money for the postage to get something in my mailbox, then I'm going to take you a little bit more seriously. I could see why that would be part of the review as well. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've taken a lot of the things that I do, you know, I learned from the Glover U organization. This isn't, you know, we're not recreating the mold here. This isn't anything new. So if you're good, Jeff, I'm going to dive into step 1.
Yeah, that's good. Let me just say one thing. We have a lot of people messaging to hosts and panelists. If you want your message to be seen by everyone in the webinar, change your chat settings. When you go to message, it says over on the right, currently it defaults to hosts and panelists. Change that to everyone, because right now we're seeing all of the cities and everything where you guys are at, and we see them, so that's cool, but you don't necessarily see them. So make sure if you're going to be messaging in the chat, change that from hosts and panelists to everyone. Okay, take it away.
And also, if I tried to read all those, I would get nervous and stumble over my words. So, so today we've got what I've identified as 6 steps to master hybrid farming. Each step, obviously, there will be a number of items underneath that I would like to highlight on and dive deep on. I have never done this presentation before. I don't know how long it's going to take. But Jeff, if I'm getting long-winded, just let me know.
For sure.
I can be corralled pretty easily. So the first step is identifying what areas you want to farm. What neighborhoods do you want to farm? So the first step is looking into turnover rates. How many houses are in the area versus how many are selling every year? My personal target is at least 6% turnover rate. So, and Jeff, I think your target would be somewhere around the same, correct?
5% minimum. Yeah, yeah,
5%. We're heavy military, so there's a lot of churning.
Yep,
Yep,
yeah.
yep. So
And
we were
so
able
tell
to.
us what that means by 6% turnover rate. What does that mean in true numbers?
So I'll reference my specific neighborhood and the way that I look at it. So my neighborhood, there's 97 houses.
Mhm.
I need at least 5 or 6 houses to sell in that neighborhood a year for it to qualify as a neighborhood that I would like to farm.
Got it.
So ideally, if 5 houses sell in my neighborhood per year, my goal is to list 2 of them.
Yep.
40% would be complete market dominance in my small neighborhood.
Yeah.
For outside of my own neighborhood, I'm looking for 20%. So
Got
if
it.
there's a neighborhood where 10 houses sell, my goal is to get 2 listings out of those 10.
Makes sense to me.
And there's a number of ways you can do this. There's a ton of tools. I do it directly through our MLS, through a tool called Realist, and I'm able to track it that way.
Yeah.
And I go back 2 years.
You could manually do it through the MLS. You could just go back, minus 365, draw a circle of the neighborhood you want to work, count the little rooftops,
Right.
and then click on sold and pending and count those. Okay, out of 100 rooftops in the last 12 months, there were 5. That qualifies.
That
100
qualifies.
rooftops, 1 or 2, don't bother. You want to be in a neighborhood, you want to farm an area where there's a 5% turnover or more. Because watch, apples to apples comparison, let's just keep the number simple. I'm going to say 6% versus 3%. If Andy picks a neighborhood at 6%, and you pick a neighborhood at 3%, meaning he has 6 for every 100 houses, you have 3 sales for every 100 houses. All things being equal, Andy's going to get double the results on the same spend because it's the same 100 houses. So that's why you want to be mindful of the turnover rate.
Exactly. So once you've identified a turnover rate, now you want to look at things like local features, schools, shopping. Is this a desirable area? Are people moving to this area, or do you have an area with low day on market times? Are houses selling fast in that area? Those are things that you'll want to be cognizant of, as well as local businesses. The proximity to local businesses is actually something that's built on to the farming on later, step 3 or step 4. But you want to have some proximity to local businesses as well. Another thing that I look for is local news. So what's going on? And I have a great example of this here in Virginia Beach. There are 2 higher end neighborhoods for our area. They're side by side, and for as long as I can remember, there's been nothing behind those neighborhoods. Well, guess who just bought the plot of land? Amazon. Amazon wants to put a distribution center in behind those 2 neighborhoods. So for me, that's a trigger. I'm going to start farming those neighborhoods right away, because those are the type of people who will be looking to sell. And even though an Amazon warehouse is 24 to 36 months down the road, I need to get my face in front of those people now. Similar to the turnover rate, price point. You want to be cognizant of the price point because you are investing a significant amount of time into the farming, and you're investing a decent amount of money. If you're paying for leads, right, you want to pay for a lead that's going to yield a higher return. And then location. So lastly, is that area easily accessible, and can you get by there on a frequent basis? One of the things we'll talk about later is being able to just drive through the neighborhood and wave at people. Things like that, as people start to recognize your face, become important. So for my own farming plan, I've got 4 neighborhoods that are on my way home. So I drive through there twice a week. I look for yard sale signs. I look for sale signs. I look for lost dog, lost cat. Just wave at people as you're driving through the neighborhood when they're out walking. Start to build recognition. That's all I have for step 1. Jeff, anything to add?
No, that's good. I think the biggest thing there is, you're looking for a neighborhood turnover 5%. You're also making sure that there's local businesses in that area, that because I know what's coming in your next few points. So I think that'll make sense when you get to those.
Absolutely. And do the research. Don't just assume. Don't assume that you think a neighborhood is a great neighborhood. Actually verify.
Yeah, because you're going to probably be doing, you're going to work this farm, I would imagine, for at least 5 years, or maybe even your lifetime. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Right. And when you think about, everyone likes, oh, I want $1 million buyer, I want $1 million listing. Like in my market, my average price point's 300,000. So I'm
Mhm.
farming $300,000 to $500,000 neighborhoods because those are the highest turnovers.
Mhm.
Step two, we're going to talk about the strategy. So you have to formulate a strategy going into this. My personal plan is 18 touches for the neighborhoods that I'm farming. So in a 12-month period, we are touching each person in the neighborhood ideally 18 times. Now that comes down to 12 direct mail, 4 calls, and 2 events per year. It's important to have it planned out because as you're looking down the road, you want to consider, how much is this going to cost me? How much time do I have to invest?
Yeah.
What is the cadence of the mailings, right? So my typical mailing is about once per month,
Mhm.
with specific dates. So when we talk about strategy, we have a project management tool, and each mailing is its own project. We take this very, very seriously. It is 30% of my business. So we have a plan. All of 2023, my marketing plan is complete. I know exactly what's going out, what days they're going to be put in the mail throughout the year. So having a strategy and building around that strategy is important.
Can you tell us again your touch formula?
Sure. So 12 pieces of mail,
Yeah.
4 calls,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 events for 18 touches.
Got it.
And then we'll talk a little bit more about the events in a later step, but things to consider that people tend to overlook when you start talking about direct mail. How much is an envelope?
Yeah.
It's something that you don't think about.
Yep.
How much is printing going to cost? How much do stamps cost? Do I print out on my office printer, or do I order from a professional printer? Do I do
Yep.
postcards? Do I do letters? There's a whole mix of options.
Yeah.
So you've got to strategize that. And mine is a mix of all of those. Some are letters that I print in the office. Others are items that I have professionally printed and folded and stuffed into an envelope. And then
Mhm.
there's postcards as well.
Yep.
So when you're planning your strategy, what are you sending and when? I mentioned we're doing a neighborhood event in March, that those invites, those pieces of mail, the postcards for that event have already gone out. They went out, let's see,
When
February 15th.
when do you do your plan? When do you do your planning to lay everything out?
Usually between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah, that's a good time to do it. And is that like an all day kind of brainstorming session, planning set? Yeah.
Yep, that's a Saturday
Whiteboard.
morning. So my calendar breaks down to Saturday mornings are those brainstorming and creative
I
times,
love that. Yeah.
and it's a significant chunk on Saturdays. So there's a large portion of strategizing and planning, and then I
Yep.
actually do all of my own graphic design as well. So as we go throughout the year, I'll continue to do design work on all of the marketing stuff that we send out.
Yep. I love that. That's good. I'm sitting to my left here. You can't tell because actually Taylor's in there on a call right now. But that whole wall is a whiteboard,
Oh,
and
nice.
we fill up that entire wall when we do our Saturday brainstorming sessions or our planning, marketing planning, stuff like this. So you really have to think about, if you don't have one of those in your office, I mean, you got to go somewhere where you could get one, right? Or just
Yeah.
purchase one of those ones on wheels, and they're cheap. They're like $50, $100 or whatever. But that kind of gets the creative juices flowing, and you can line up January, February, March, April, May, right? You can line up every single month. I love that.
Right. And we use Asana, the project management software Asana.
Okay.
And all of those are, like I said, are listed as projects with tasks assigned,
Yep.
to my admin or to my assistant with due dates.
Yep.
And it's funny. Step 3 actually talks about execution, and I'll move in that direction.
Sure.
People tend to underestimate the amount of time involved.
Mm.
So you can talk about, I time block 2 hours a week for my mailing, or whatever the case may be. And
Yeah.
just to put into perspective, my assistant and I send about 1,000 pieces of mail a month, and every single one of them are hand addressed and hand stamped.
Yeah.
So that's between the two of us. So we have days where we literally will just fold. We'll sit together in my office for 2 hours and just fold letters, put them in a box. And then the next day we'll stuff them. And then the next day we'll address them. So there's a good amount of time that goes into it. Yet if you're in a position where you're on a team, or you have an admin, or you have a teenage son at home like I do, he knows how to stuff envelopes.
Yeah.
And a lot of this can be done passively.
Okay.
One of the biggest points that I learned from Taylor, actually, in systems of real estate, is that the admin role should also be lead generating. And this is a way for my admin to continue helping with lead generation,
Yes.
by leading those projects.
Yep. Yep. Love that.
So again,
does hand addressing and stamping increase your open rate? I'm guessing, whether you know statistically or not. To me, I would say, yeah, it does.
Yeah, absolutely. And even to the point of, I get calls almost monthly when the mailings go out. Someone will call and say, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in transacting business right now, but I appreciate the effort that you put into that letter.
Yep. Yep.
Additionally, if there are letters that go out, I hand sign every letter. So it's a printed template and I hand sign every letter.
Yep.
Again, it takes time. It's not an overnight strategy, and it's the execution part of it is the most time consuming part.
Yeah, I bet.
I can spend 8 hours strategizing and putting a plan in place. Well, then, for the rest of the year, every month we're sending out mail.
Correct.
And it can, like I said, it really can become passive, and it's blocked into my time block as lead generation time. So because it is a very, very important piece.
Yeah.
Questions or comments about that, Jeff?
No, I agree. Let's keep rolling.
Okay, cool. So the next step is step 4, when we're going to talk about mastering events. And at this point, there's a little bit of bouncing back and forth. The events are also in conjunction with the strategy. So when we talk about planning accordingly and planning a strategy, we're forward thinking. And what does that look like when, let's say, July 4th, right? People tend to travel, people tend to go on vacation. They're not going to be in the area July 4th. So it's probably not a good idea to plan an event in July. And you want to make sure, as you build out your strategy, like I mentioned, the February mailer is an invite to my March event. And the same thing will be for the back to school ice cream event will be August's mailer or July's mailer. Just double checking my calendar. So you want to plan accordingly, and you've got to be cognizant of local events. We are in a resort town. There are huge concert series that come through. There's all kinds of things that take place at the beach, at the ocean front, and we have to battle with that, as well as the military. So when there are big homecomings or ships leaving on deployment, your neighborhoods or your areas will fluctuate in activity. So plan accordingly. And it will also help identify opportunities. So as you're doing your research, it's going to tell you what time periods to stay away from, but it's also going to highlight some pretty important periods that you can focus on. Now, as your strategy is in place and we get to the point of mastering events, this is where it all comes together. Realistically, like, very rarely do I get a call from a letter that says, come list my house. It's those events, it's those instant offers, which I kind of glanced over, but I'll circle back to. Those are the calls to action that get people to come to you, that reach out. And there's not every mailer can be a call to action. There's a certain part of brand building, brand recognition, name recognition, value add that we're bringing to these neighborhoods.
So you don't want every mailing to be a call to action. You want some of them to be just pure value.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I'll give an example. So my year-end newsletter,
Please.
I learned from from Taylor. On the back side of that, there's a place where you can scan a QR code for a home valuation. Super
Yep.
simple, very passive. There is a call to action, but it's not an aggressive call to action.
Yep.
There are other ones where I think I've got one laying around somewhere. I'm going to talk while I walk away.
That's okay.
Pre-listing inspection. So
Mhm.
like March's mailer for the neighborhoods will be a pre-listing inspection. We're coming up on our peak season.
Yep.
Claim your free pre-listing inspection. You know, I put on here first eligible 25 people. So I, put a number on there to incentivize people to call.
Okay.
Let's see, events. There we go. So my plan is one event in each neighborhood, and one event outside of the neighborhood. So at a local business.
Annually.
Annually, correct.
Okay.
So like I mentioned, I have 4 neighborhoods that I farm. So the coffee event that's coming up, and I'll share that one as well. Coming up March 18th, I've got time slots.
Mm-hmm.
So from 8 to 10 a.m., I've got a postcard for this neighborhood. From 10 to noon, I've got a postcard for this neighborhood.
Yep.
Sunday, I will turn around and do the same thing, 8 to 10, 10 to 12. And that way I get an event in all 4 neighborhoods, but I never get overwhelmed when 600 people show up.
Makes
So
sense.
we break it down and it's staggered.
Yep.
With that, you may even be able to see. So that's Pale Horse Coffee right behind me.
Mhm.
They're a local veteran-owned coffee shop, and we're partnering with those guys to do the coffee event.
Smart.
The other event is in the neighborhood. It's typically an ice cream truck around back to school timeframe.
Yeah.
The
So what-
challenge there is Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what would an ice cream truck just for a farm? Is it like a 1 hour thing? What is the cost behind that? Can you share that?
You laugh, or you will laugh, but I walk alongside the ice cream truck as he drives through the neighborhood. There's a postcard that goes out, free ice cream on this day during this time, and again, I'm able to stagger it based on the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
The best part about it is I can do one neighborhood per weekend if I really want to, and I can hit all 4 in the same month.
Yep.
But there's a postcard that goes out. We'll be in your neighborhood during this time. Bring us your postcard for your free ice cream.
So that's
Go
that
ahead.
ice cream truck driver really appreciates you then, huh?
Yeah. And the cool thing about it with the cost is there's no upfront cost.
Yeah.
So I only pay for the people that show up to buy ice cream.
Okay.
I did this in my neighborhood back in October. I had 7 people show up. It cost me $30 to have the ice cream truck at my house for 2 hours. It's very, very easy. Same thing with food trucks. A lot of times food trucks won't charge you just to show up.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to pay for the food. But the big part of that is bringing the postcard. I need the postcard.
Yeah.
When you show up to these events, and they're always, bring this back on this day and you'll get this. That's the offer. Here's a postcard, like here's a coupon, here's whatever. Bring it back to me and I'll give you something for free.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a very simple script, honestly. Hey, so I can cut down on mailing. What's the best email address for you?
Mm-hmm.
And then I just jot it right down on the postcard. And then I keep all those postcards and come back. They go into the CRM.
Yeah. So you're building the database in the process, but you're building the email database through the process.
Correct. And that's the idea. Is I want to capture email addresses and phone numbers if possible, but I'm already calling these people when I do circle prospecting. So then for me to ask for their phone number, it's a little weird.
Sure.
And I've gotten some pushback. Like, I thought you already had my number.
All right.
And then
right.
you have to be quick on your feet.
Yeah.
So that's hosting the event. That's lead capture.
Mm-hmm.
To ensure max attendance, I also call. So we do circle prospect and we call the entire neighborhood before the event to invite everyone. I also door knock. So my schedule doesn't always allow me to door knock beforehand, but at least I have to door knock either pre-event or post-event, one or the other. It's not
Yeah.
specifically which one, but
Yep.
the invite is, hey, I'm here to invite you to the event. Here's another postcard. So I always order double postcards, just in case they say they didn't get it or it got lost in the mail. Well,
Sure.
here's another one,
Yeah.
just to make sure.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, to make sure this doesn't happen again, what's the best email address for you?
Got it.
So you're hitting them again. And then the post event script is basically me hitting all of the houses that didn't show. So all of the people that didn't come to the event, I'm going to show up and say, hey, you missed our event. We've got plans for the next one. What's the best email address for you?
Yep.
So we're trying to grow that email database, which it's counterintuitive to focus on direct mail because email marketing is falling off. But you have to do both. You can't just do one or the other.
Yeah.
So it's funny, but the promotion before the event will help increase attendance. Not overwhelming yourself during the event will also help conversion. Like I said, if I sent 600 postcards and tried to squeeze everyone in a 2-hour time frame, I'm not going to be able to respond to all of those people. I'm not going to be able to make those introductions or meet those people. So you have to stagger it. You have to be prepared. And also, I mean, when you talk about 650 people in my farm, that's a significant chunk of money, for an individual agent. Essentially, if you're looking at stamps and postcards and printing and everything, you're $700 or $800 a month could rack up really quickly.
Yep. So I'm going to back up just 1 second. So people can kind of wrap their heads around, this sounds like a lot. 650 people in your farm. What type of transactions has that led to for you?
It's about a 1% return. Okay.
So meaning 6.5 transactions annually from that group?
Correct.
6 to 7.
Correct. The goal for this year is 8.
Got it. Okay, good. Yeah. So 6 to 7 transactions. Your goal is to get to 8 this year. And then, do you see a day where you're doing 10 to 12 out of that group?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the best part about it is I'm still tweaking this. So as we continue to do it, you learn what events work better than others, which ones get better timing or better attendance, which ones are timed better. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Like I was very disappointed in the ice cream truck event at my own house. Like I parked the guy in front of my house and invited my neighbors, and not a lot of people showed up.
Yeah,
but you have to keep doing it.
Sure. So in your mind, because I know you do a ton of units, and this is just a small piece of that, is the thought process, with your brokerage to get everyone doing the same, so that way everyone's picking up an extra 7 to 10 transactions per year, or how do you scale this for yourself?
So as an individual, the scaling piece looks like bringing on probably a marketing assistant or an intern whose primary role will be this. I just as I volunteered to teach this, I would teach the same thing to everyone in my brokerage. And you look at the 80-20 rule. I'll teach it to everyone. 20% of people will actually do it. And 10% will follow through completely and do an entire plan. So I'll teach it to anyone. The playbook's open.
Yeah, got it. And from a time standpoint, your personal time spent, I mean, if you had to say, aside from the planning day, because I know that's a lot of time, if you had to say, on average in a given month, I spend X amount of time executing on this, what would that number be?
Of my personal time, it's about 10 to 12 hours a week.
Okay.
The other part of that is having the assistant in place to help with a lot of that. Got
it. Okay. And that includes the actual activity of door knocking and so forth as well, right?
So door knocking, you can factor in another 4 hours a month door knocking probably.
Gotcha.
on average, because I don't door knock monthly. We only door knock quarterly around the events, or twice a year. I'm sorry, around the events.
Got it. Got it. Okay, great. All right, continue. Sorry, I was curious.
No worries. And then the same thing. So you've got to master the event. That's the, you know, that's the 300-yard drive to get you to the green. You know, that's the biggest part of this whole thing. Once you've executed, you know, so you're identifying neighborhoods, doing your research in step one. In step two, you're laying out your strategy, preferably for 12 months. And it doesn't have to be 2023, right? You can start April 1st and run through April of 2024. Step three is the actual execution of it. Again, this is the most time consuming part and requires the most physical activity between the execution and the door knocking when you master the events.
Yep.
Once you've mastered the events, step five is going to be tracking the results and then continuing to deliver on those.
Okay.
The reason that I've chosen 4 neighborhoods, one, proximity, but 2, because I can do A/B testing. And if you guys are not familiar with A/B testing, it's basically you send 2 different messages out and judge which one was received better. So I have 2 versions of the postcard. I have 2 versions of a letter that go out to different neighborhoods. And then I just track the results to see how I'm getting better results and then tweaking my message accordingly. Different venues. Again, you need.
Sorry, Andy, I know when you say, I want to go back to that 1% return thing, meaning, you know, 1% of the total households will do business with you. That's probably not taking into consideration the referrals that you get on top of that. You're just talking about specific business done in that neighborhood.
Correct.
I would imagine if you take that into consideration, especially over time, you know, that's going to lead to past client referrals. That's going to lead to referrals outside of the neighborhood.
That's very, very true. So much so to the point of my database, my SOI also receives direct mail. So I do direct mail across the board. It's not just for hybrid farming new neighborhoods. All of my past clients receive 1 piece of mail every month, physical mail. And it follows a similar plan. I do more events. I do a lot more stuff with the database than I do with the farm. But it's the same concept. I just replicated it.
Sure. Got it. Okay, good.
I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Step 5. We're on step 5.
So when you're looking at events and tracking the results, you've got to try different venues, for example, and different times. So we've got a local coffee shop, local ice cream shop, a local bakery, a local brewery, local pizzeria. So any of these things, you've got to trial and error to really see what's going to get the most attendance.
Yep.
Coffee seems to be a good one on Saturday morning. Ice cream doesn't do so well on Saturday afternoon. You know, just learning those types of things and then adjusting your strategy accordingly.
Yeah.
So with real estate, I think everyone probably knows, you know, you've got to look at least a 6-month, 9-month, 12-month window of doing an activity well to really judge the results.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, I always say from the stage with hybrid farming, you won't, first of all, you might get lucky the first 3-6 months. I mean, you might even get lucky the first month. You might do something and, hey, funny, you should drop by, or funny, you should mail it. We were just talking about putting the home in the market, but to actually start to see consistent results from your activities, I mean, it's a good 9-10 months is usually what I share.
Right. And the best part about it is I will take everything that I learned in 2023, just like I did in 2022. We'll take everything that we learned and then turn right around and add another neighborhood or add another area to farm.
Got it. Yeah. And it's once you're already doing it, it's the first 100 that to get it together for the first 100, that's the hardest. Once you have the first 100 figured out, it's layering on top of that. The next 100, the next 100, the next 100 houses is what I'm referring to. Those become easier as you go because you're already doing the work. It's already becomes repetitive almost.
Right. You increase the quantity of copies that you order. You know, that's pretty much the end of it.
And the price on stuff. The more
true. That's very true. And if you think about, so, you know, the minimum where we're farming is 300. There's some neighborhoods like my neighborhood will go up to 8 or 900,000. And I essentially budget for $12,000.
Yeah.
$1,000 a month goes into farming. So 12,000 a year.
Yeah.
And if I can get one listing in my neighborhood, for example, we're looking at $18,000, $20,000, $24,000 in commission.
Yep.
That's if you only land one sale. So
Right.
the ROI on dollars spent is incredible. Where the ROI comes down is on the time. So again,
Sure.
it's not a get rich quick scheme. It is a time intensive method.
Yeah.
But I also don't cold call. I don't call expireds. I don't call FSBO. I do call FSBOs, but I don't really call expireds.
Yeah.
And
Well,
this
especially when those are, especially when the for sale by owners are in the farm. Do you do anything different for those guys? Because, you know, they're already hearing from you. They're already seeing your stuff. Does that conversation look different than a for sale by owner, you know, 5 miles away or whatever?
It does not actually. They all get the same, much like your DHL package, right?
Yep.
I have US Postal Service envelopes, and I've
Yep.
got a listing brochure, listing package, a realtor resume, and then I handwrite a letter that goes in each one of those.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of FSBOs here. There's hardly any expireds right now.
Yeah.
So this became supplemental to, instead of, you know, cold calling for 2 hours a day, now we're doing
Sure.
hybrid farming.
Got it. Okay, good.
Yep. All right, step 6. So the last one is going to be, I call it become the neighborhood agent.
Yep.
And that's going to be more than just direct mail. That's going to be more than just events or quarterly calls, whatever the case may be. You've got to assimilate yourself into that neighborhood. People have to recognize you. And I touched on this earlier. Drive through the neighborhood. If you see a for sale by owner sign, I actually have MLS alerts set up. So if another house gets listed in one of my neighbors or one of my neighborhoods, I know about it.
Yeah, that's right.
And even then, that doesn't mean anything bad, right? That's like, okay, cool, healthy competition. I can't win them all, whatever the case is.
What I would do is I would look at that and say, okay, what are they doing to earn that business? Is it just a one-off, or is it somebody else that's working the neighborhood? And then pay attention to what they're doing.
Very true. That's Brian Buffini. So the guy who owned my house before me met with a realtor who uses Brian Buffini. So every time a Buffini envelope comes in the mail, I look at it. It's not addressed to me, it's addressed to the previous owner, but I look at it just to know what other agents are doing.
Yep.
And on that point of, if there is another listing, call that listing agent. I'd like to host an open house.
Yep.
You can door knock around anyone's listing, right? Like, it's not anything bad.
Yep.
But you put your face in front of those people on a continual basis.
Yeah.
Once you land your first listing, you've got to blow that thing out of the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to set the precedence.
You have to treat it as if it could be your last, honestly.
Exactly.
Because they're all watching to see how you perform now.
Exactly. And that's I'm not going to say the downside. That's when the cream rises to the top, right?
Yeah. Because you set the expectation so high on everything else. Now they want to see how you do in business with the actual neighborhood.
Right. And when I mean over publicize it, you door knock around that listing, you host, you know, the most mega open house that you can host. You put your signs all over the place and you make it intentional where people cannot miss you. And invite everyone to the open house. Just listed, just sold postcards. Any opportunity you have to publicize that listing, push. Because like you said, everyone is watching. In addition to that, almost every time I start farming a new neighborhood, I get calls. There's lenders, insurance reps, title reps, contractors. Everyone wants to call and do business. Hey, I see you're farming my neighborhood. Let's work together. Work with those people.
Right.
Absolutely. Work with those people, connect those dots and build those bridges. And I have a lender who lives in my neighborhood who actually co-sponsors all of our events. So anytime I do anything in my neighborhood, because he also lives there, we do those together. And that helps defray cost. But I've met some of my best insurance reps, one of my best loan officers, and a really good contractor that I use, and I met them through farming.
Yep.
And as you build those relationships, again, you just have to continue the process over time.
Got it.
We are planting seeds every single month for 12 months, and then you continue and you wait for those crops to come in as you nurture them over time.
When would you say, like, what year is the most optimal year, or where you'd actually see, like the best return, or does it just get better every year?
It's gotten better each of the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the height of the market last year, we were still having very good results with the hybrid farming.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good. Can you recap 6 again real quick? I mean, you don't have to go through the explanation, just kind of rattle off 1, 2, 3, just so we have them.
Yeah, sure. So step 1 is identifying your areas.
And how do I identify it? Using the 5% rule? Yeah.
Correct. So minimum 5% turnover rate would be your target.
Yep.
I go back 2 years and do an average of the two. I know you mentioned 1 year.
Yeah, I think that's fine, because you might have an anomaly year where no one sells for some reason.
Right.
So, no, that's smart.
Pay attention to things that are local features, local businesses, school ratings. Are there new schools being built? Are there new businesses coming to the area that will force people to sell? Things like that are what you really want to pay attention to.
So step 2 is becoming a local expert, essentially.
Step 2 is the strategy. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So formulating the marketing strategy, ideally 12 months. You want to have a 12-month plan to execute on. For example, we started January 1, and we were just inundated trying to get ahead of the game. And now I'm at a point where April's mailings are done. We just have to, put the stamps on and drop them in the mail. So we're working ahead.
Yep.
On that note, every month I do pull a new list of mailing addresses. So if any houses have sold, if anyone's moved, at the beginning of the month, we update that list.
Smart.
Step 3 is the actual execution of the mailing itself. So this is when you're going to stuff the envelopes and sign the letters and write the addresses. Very, very time consuming. Yet there is an opportunity to make that passive.
And you're suggesting that by taking the time to actually manually handwrite or hand sign, stamp, you get better results because of that.
So I did a postcard campaign in a neighborhood, 750 houses, a company called Reminder Media.
Yep.
We sent 24 postcards over a year. It cost right around $10,000. And the only response I got was one person called me and told me to stop sending mail to its house.
Wow.
So not a single response out of 365 days.
Because it doesn't look personalized. It doesn't look specific to the area. It doesn't feel personal. That makes sense. I can see
and every mailing that I send out with a hand addressed envelope, I will get at least one call every single time.
Yeah.
So execution on number 3, again, there's an opportunity to make that passive if you have people in place or leverage. Step 4 would be the events and mastering those events.
Yep.
So how are you inviting people to the events? What does your turnout look like? Are you getting good attendance? Do we need to tweak, the postcard design? Do we need to tweak the event? Do we need to change the times? Lots of things go into that.
Yep.
But you can also help with door knocking, cold calling, or circle prospecting, I should say, to invite people. So beforehand door knock, afterhand door knock, you can circle prospect, whatever the case is. You just got to get another touch in with those people.
Yeah.
So part of that plan. Step 5 is track and evaluate. You've got to evaluate what you're doing to see what's working. So that way you can adjust accordingly.
Yep.
And again, I recommend the A/B method. So if you've got, like I said, 4 neighborhoods, or it could be 2 neighborhoods, send 2 different mailings to each neighborhood and see what your results look like.
Sure.
And then step 6 is becoming the guy. Be the neighborhood agent. Be the one that everybody thinks of when they think about selling your house. Over publicize any opportunity that you get. Drive through the neighborhood. If you like to walk, I'm going to go for a walk this afternoon, and I'm going to go for a walk in one of the neighborhoods that I farm. wearing a shirt that says Iron Valley Real Estate, because I
Yeah.
want people to see me and associate my face with that company and
Sure.
connect the dots with that mailing.
Yep, I love that. Love that. Good stuff, Andy. Question: when we're done here, are you able to share a few examples of postcards and things that you do send out in the Glover U Inner Circle for those that
Absolutely.
watch the webinar? Okay, good.
Absolutely.
So we'll just have you drop some of those in the Inner Circle. Also, while I have you, because we do have some newbies on, of the free resources, what would be the one that you think is the best value for agents today to take advantage of the Glover U resources?
So I look at this in two pieces or two parts. Number one, now business. So what can I do right now? What can I pick up from Glover U right now that's going to help me get business? And that's the scripts.
Got it.
The scripts, and then the role play option within the Inner Circle. There are dozens of people always looking for role play options. So download the free scripts, find a role play partner.
Got it. And those are both available. Well, the scripts are on gloveru.com. The role play partners are in the Inner Circle Facebook group, which most people on this are probably a part of already. Any other resource that you use within your brokerage or that you get the most value from personally?
The social media calendar has been a staple. I think since I started with Glover U, was one of the first things I implemented. And I will now be handing that over to Live on Real Media in a few weeks. So
good. Well, you can get that at for those that are wondering, where do I get that? gloveru.com/social. I'll drop that in the chat. That is one of our hottest free resources right now. Awesome. Anything we missed, Andy, or anything you want to add to the discussion?
I would just say that my experience thus far with Glover U has been nothing short of amazing. The company that you guys see around the leadership from the organization is phenomenal, and will support all the way down to, everyone. Like there is no agent that Glover U is not willing to help. So take advantage of those free resources. The Systems of Real Estate class changed my business, and that's actually what helped me put all of this into place. So
good. Well, thank you for your time this morning. I think you added a lot of value for those that are considering hybrid farming or looking at ways to improve the business in the areas that they work. And we appreciate your insight and your 6 tactics. And for those of you that are watching live or watching at a later date, go check the Glover U Inner Circle Facebook group for several examples of what we talked about today. All right, Andy, thanks so much. Go enjoy your day. Go enjoy your Thursday. Let's kick some butt. See you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. See you. Bye.